Welcome to Kicking It Local, the podcast all about the football community. I'm your host, Johnny Kecko, and today I'm joined by a former A-League and NSL player, and he's also the first Indigenous footballer to score for the Socceroos and is now the head coach of Croydon FC in the NPL in South Australia. Travis Dodd, thanks for joining me, mate.
Johnny, thanks for having me.
I can't wait to chat to you today because there's a lot of things I want to get through. Your time in the NSL, also your time at Adelaide United. I'm a huge Adelaide United fan, and that period you were there, we won the Premier's Plate in the first season, and then a couple of grand finals, which I don't want to talk about.
Neither do I.
and also the one bit I'm looking forward to talking later in the show is about your work in the Indigenous community, what you do for the coaching side of that, and some exciting things coming up as well for yourself in that realm, and also your time at the Socceroos, because you scored in your debut, and also it was a very important goal as well for not only Australia but also for Indigenous footballers. But first of all, Adelaide City was where it all started for you. 16 years old, and you were the fourth youngest NSL player for Adelaide City to play for them at 16 years old and 281 days. How was that like for you?
Yeah, look, it feels like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, at the time, I didn't really think anything of that playing at a young age. It was just a progression that was happening with my football. I was fortunate enough to be able to make it through the state teams, the young national teams, the under-17s, the under-20s, and the career just progressed from there. So I was very fortunate to be a part of a squad that had some unbelievable players there at the time.
Who was in that squad at the time? Do you remember?
Yeah, so it was Alex Tobin was still playing, Milan Ivanovic, Damien Murray, so I was teammates with him. My current technical director, Mark Brazzali, Ange Costanzo, Costa Salapacides, who... it's a shame he didn't go on and do great things because he scored 4 goals against Argentina in a Youth World Cup. But some of the bigger names definitely to have played with.
Oh wow, some really big names there as well. Now you're coaching against someone like Damien Murray as well. Yeah. Do you have fond memories with him, and do you guys get along well?
Yeah, I get along well with Damien. I have to say he did break my heart when I was at Adelaide City. I was 17, or just turned 18 actually, I think at the time, and I'd gone away with the under-20 Australian team, and we were going into camp. We were in camp in Darwin, there for a week or so, and then we were flying out to Samoa for the World Cup qualifiers. Last trial game that we were playing, it was against a Northern Territory select team. I was playing and unfortunately got injured pretty badly. It was the first significant injury that I had in my career. Dislocated my ankle. So ended up having surgery in Darwin, and I was out for about six months.
Oh, wow.
So it was a pretty significant injury. Anyway, I came back, got back from the injury. Remember going out on loan to Marconi as well to play in the tournament that they play in Viareggio in Italy, get with all the youth teams from around the world, which was a great experience. And that was just to get match fitness up to be able to be ready for selection for the World Cup. As it turned out, we had the selections, and I remember stretching with Damien one night before training. We're doing calf stretches in the warm-up, and he goes, it was along the lines of, bad luck. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you didn't make the World Cup squad. And I said, really? I said, I didn't know. So he was the one that broke it to me that I didn't make the World Cup squad. So I was pretty shattered that night.
He did it on purpose, didn't he?
I think he tried to rattle me. No, look, I'm assuming that he would have thought that I knew. Obviously, the club obviously knew, but I hadn't been told. And look, that was probably the first big setback in my career, not to have made that. I was in that squad for all of the build up. Some great players there as well with Colosimo, Emerton, Bresciano, Cellina, Grella. That was an unbelievable squad to have been part of, but unfortunately, it didn't make the final cut.
Well, you did later on make it into the Socceroos. Before that, you did had to work a bit in the NSL. You were in there for a little bit, but then you made a little switch over to overseas. Went to Greece.
Yep.
Where you played UEFA Cup as well and scored in that first round of that. What was that experience like?
Yeah, well, the reason for going overseas at the time was the NSL had finished, and there was no league here anymore. I'd initially gone to Malaysia, so Ante Milicic, former MacArthur coach, was a teammate of mine at Parramatta Power. He'd organised for me to go to Malaysia, and that didn't work out at all. It was only going to be a short-term contract anyway for 3 months, but I think I stayed about 6 weeks. Didn't get on well with the coach at all. Some very differing opinions on me as a player. So I came back and got a trial in Greece. At the time, I don't know, my expectations weren't that high going over. Thought I'd just give it a crack. Now, got over there, did a 4-day trial and somehow signed, because I say somehow because I wasn't in any condition for match fitness or anything like that. Malaysian football was pretty laid back at the time. But yeah, to be selected and get a contract. Now, the contract wasn't great. Everybody thinks that when you go to Europe, you're earning millions of dollars. But honestly, I was probably earning more in Australia that last year in the NSL. But I saw it as an opportunity, because we're in UEFA Cup qualifiers, to try and get a foot in the door to Europe that way. So playing against Udinese in the home and away leg of the qualifier. Scoring there was unbelievable. I was playing as a right back at the time, I can't even remember. I think the score was 3-1, 3-0, 3-1 that home leg. But that was an unbelievable at the time. That was my biggest achievement. To have scored in the UEFA Cup match.
Yep. And then the reason why you came back, was it to do with change of coach?
No, there was a change of coach, because I was playing quite a bit in the beginning. We had a foreign coach, and as happens in Greece quite regularly, the coaches get turned over, sacked, as it would be. And the coach that they brought in was a Greek local coach, and he just didn't play me. He got rid of, didn't get rid of, but he stopped playing a lot of the foreigners that were at the club at the time. And it probably went for about 4 or 5 weeks where I wasn't getting much information. He wasn't really talking to me. My Greek was, wasn't great. I could understand a bit. And then, after 5 or 6 weeks, he just came up to me and started speaking in English to me. So maybe it was a bit of a test to put me through the ringer, which he certainly did. The main reason that I came back is my wife was pregnant with our second child. We'd had an experience, with the hospital system over there, and unfortunately her father passed away suddenly. So everything happened. The stars didn't align for me, I guess, for that. And then I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was a game where there was alleged match fixing in the UEFA Cup. Yep. So
in your game?
Yeah, in our game. So it was a game against Dinamo Tbilisi from Georgia, and I hadn't been playing, as I said, for a number of weeks, and then this game I got put into the game, and it was an odd game. We ended up we were losing 1-0 at half time and ended up winning the game 5-2.
Wow.
I'd actually heard afterwards that betting had been suspended a couple of days before because they were taking too many irregular bets for the half-time, full-time correct score, which is obviously crazy, 1-0, 5-2. But I came back and that was it. I'd already started talks with John Cosmina and Michael Petrillo at Adelaide United, and it just worked out nicely for me to come home at that time.
What was it like when you came home, what was it like to be a part of that team? Because they'd already been one season in the NSL, but their first year in the A-League. What was that like to be a part?
Yeah, it was a huge buzz, definitely, because it was a new league. It was there was heaps of hype around the league. I remember going over to Sydney and filming in the first commercial for the A-League, and there was just so much excitement and buzz about what this new league was going to bring, and that certainly flowed through to games, to crowds, and there was great support for us in those early days. And yeah, it was fantastic to be part of the first year of the A-League.
Do you reckon it's dwindled off since that period?
Well, certainly, if you look at the crowd
Yeah.
figures over the years, unfortunately, it has dwindled, and there's always going to be reasons why. And I guess the last couple of years has been, unfortunately, because of COVID.
Yeah.
But look, it's hard for the league. They need to try to keep invigorating and innovating what they can do better and how they can get more eyeballs on the game. My thought has always been that the professional league needs to be on free-to-air to get as many young kids watching the game as possible, because you look at NRL and AFL, it's all free-to-air. They get to see their heroes every week on TV. They don't need to rely on pay TV to be able to watch players play.
We've only got one game on there at the moment. Do you reckon that's enough, or do you reckon there needs to be as many as possible?
Yeah, no, it's not enough. No way. Look, it's you understand from a league perspective, is because it's a revenue earner for them. There's no doubt about it, and potentially because these other free-to-air stations have already invested so heavily in other codes that they're just not interested in football. But we truly are the world game. The amount of people that we get for World Cups and watching World Cups and things like that. It's just a shame that we can't get the same hype about our league, because the product is still a good product.
Now, you were at Adelaide United for 6 years. That in that period, you won the Premier's Plate in the first season, and then a couple of grand finals, which we don't want to talk about those. But also, but the other thing, you were the captain, the fourth captain of Adelaide United, took the armband from Michael Valkanis. What was that moment to represent the state's team in the only professional league in Australia?
Well, that was another huge honour. I hadn't really been a captain before. Hadn't been bestowed that honour. I was made vice captain at the start of the season. Rilio Vidmar was the coach, and he said, "Look, the plan is for you to be an understudy to Michael for a year or two, and then look to progress from there if it all works out." Unfortunately, Michael got injured. He did an ACL early on in the season. It was very early in the season, and I was thinking to myself, well, here we go, I'm going to be captain. But had a chat to Viddy, and he still wanted me to be that understudy type vice captain and learn. And fair point, because I'd never been a vice captain either. So put Paul Agostino in as skipper at the time, and unfortunately Ago was injury prone, picked up a couple of injuries. So at that point, Viddy made me captain full time. So it was a huge honour, and it's something that I felt like I grew into over that period of a couple of years, and something to be very proud of. To be not only the captain, but an Indigenous captain of the team based in Adelaide.
I think you're the only Indigenous captain for that team, I reckon. I don't think there's been any since.
No, I don't think so. Freddie Aegis was the club, but I don't think he was captain at the time.
Yeah. And what was that period like for you? What was one of your highlights as captain?
Oh, look, there was a lot, to be honest, because at that time we had Nick Bianco and Dario Fontanarosa, Sam Sedekasi, people behind the club, running the club, and it was a genuine family environment. You know, people loved being around the club. We'd have Thursday barbecues, media barbecues after training, and those times we were getting 40, 50 people to these lunches, and it's for a media barbecue, and like the work that the club did, and specifically Dom Ronaldo, who was the media manager at the time, promoting the club did so well. But it was just an environment where everyone wanted to be part of. So I think because of that, we bonded really well as a team. And the highlights at the time were obviously the Asian Champions League, making the final. Unfortunately, another loss there, but also the Club World Cup for sure.
With the Asian Champions League, that was I know everyone now remembers, or the Eastern Seaboard remembers, Western Sydney Wanderers winning it, but for that period, for Adelaide to get to the grand final against Canberra Osaka, unfortunately lose the way they did, but the way you guys went through that run, and there's a doco, I think it was on Fox Sports back about five or so years ago, and spoke about what you guys had to go through with travelling and passports and all that at the airports. What was it like for you to be a part of that and just get through all those hurdles?
Yeah, no, it was crazy times. I guess the adversity that we're up against compared to other teams in that competition. Financial constraints was the biggest one. We were up against scheduling from the federation at the time, because we didn't get any assistance from the league. Regardless of our schedule of playing in the Champions League, the games for the A-League were set and they weren't changing. And there are a couple of moments that stand out for me. We went to, particularly in the semi-final, we were in Brisbane. We played against Queensland Raw, and then we had to fly to Uzbekistan. So that felt like it took an eternity to get there, with stopovers and delays and whatnot. But go over there, which was the second leg, and I won't say scrape through, but we lost 1-0 and won 3-1 on aggregate. But we flew out on a Thursday, arrived on a Friday, and then played on a Saturday at home against Perth, and we won that game as well. So, the travel that we had to do was phenomenal, and I don't think that the playing group, got enough credit, at the time for how hard that really was, because you look at AFL players complaining about having to travel from Sydney to Melbourne and and whatnot. So,
or locally, some people complaining to go to Port Perry,
or South Adelaide for me.
There you go. You can put in comparison. You guys did a very good job. But what was it? It would have been some weird things you would have seen during that period. Any strangest moments that you had during that the travels?
Oh, look, I know, again, for our gamers in Uzbekistan, we took a chef at the time. So I think the Australian team, or the Joeys, the under-17s, had just been in Tashkent, and there were some concerns about, getting sick from the food and whatnot. And the club, got a chef in place and sent them over a couple of days before to go and take control of the kitchen, clean it from top to bottom, and make sure that the food we got was all okay. I think we even took food with him, pastas and sauces and canned stuff. But that was strange for us, because we travelled domestically, and it's all good, but even internationally, when we travelled before, we'd never had that. So something like that was really bizarre. When Bunyad Corps came to Australia, they'd called the club and asked them where they could park their jet, because they were flying they were coming over on a private jetliner, and wanted to know where you park us. Like, guys, you park it at the airport. Where else are you going to leave it? You're not going to come and roll it up next to the stadium.
Yeah, Holden Street.
There's not even enough room for cars there, let alone a jumbo. But there were some of the weird things that we were up against, and it's just phenomenal to think that a team from Australia at the time, on a budget of probably $2 million for the squad, was competing against budgets of 20 million plus.
Yeah, I remember one team had one player that had the same amount that you guys were making as a team.
That's particularly in Bunyad Corps, they had multiple, because Rivaldo was there at the time. They had a Chilean international striker, and even speaking to each team's given like a chaperone when you're over there. We're chatting to them, and I think the average wage there at the time was about $20,000 US a week. So it was huge money compared to what we were getting.
And that period, because you got to the grand final, you got a place in the FIFA Club World Cup. What was that experience like to be a part of the Club World Cup?
That was huge. to be in something like that was phenomenal. I think South Melbourne had been they'd competed in it before.
Sydney FC as well, I think.
So no, it was huge. Manchester United were there, and always remember, we were one game off playing Man United. Had we beaten Gamba in that opening round, which we potentially should have, because I know myself, I had a really good opportunity to score, and I still kicked myself. There was speculation, and there was talk that I might be able to get a move to Asia as well. I always think, what if I scored that game? Would that have sealed the deal for me? But to be able to be in a tournament with teams like Manchester United was huge.
I think we beat Waker. It was a white. I can't remember.
The New Zealand team.
Yeah,
in the first game. I think I scored in that one actually. Scored a header. That was it was just a great experience. The professionalism there, to be part of a FIFA run tournament with that's held in such high regard. It was a great achievement, and the club at the time with Nick Bianco was fantastic. As a reward to all of the staff, he took everyone over to Japan as well, which it was amazing. So not only are the players there, but we're getting support from the whole club to be part of that tournament.
The Nick Bianco time at the club looked like it was like very much like a family. So what was some of the best things? 'Cause you mentioned the things about the media day and all that, but what was it about the team that helped the team perform well as well?
Yeah, look, it was. It was the inclusivity.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, football in Australia, 9 times out of 10 is going to be a business where you lose money, and I think if you come into the game expecting to make money, then you're going to be in for a rude shock. But Nick would always give us whatever we needed. Whether it was players, whether it was equipment, whether it was to do extra things off the park. It was just at a really good environment. He would include us with his own business, and have Christmas parties where we would get invited to that and be included there. So it was an environment where Nick and Dario made you feel like you were part of his family, their family, and because of that, I think you just felt like it was a responsibility to give back as well.
Yeah,
you get all of this stuff, you get treated so well, so we go out there as a team and we give everything we can every week.
Do you reckon A-League clubs are missing owners like that these days? Because I don't think there's many like that anymore.
Yeah, look, it's hard. There's club owners that treat it like a business, which it is.
Yeah.
I think Nick and Dari were a bit different, where it was a passion. It was a real passion, and they're both proud South Australians. Nick's Italian, but you know what I mean. And just had a real passion for seeing South Australia succeed. Other owners have different interests. Club owners want to come in and develop players and try and sell players and make money off players. I don't think that was ever the intent with Nick and Dario at the time.
Now, you had all these amazing times at Adelaide United, some great experiences throughout that, but you were highly regarded by the fans as one of their favourites at the time, but unfortunately your time there was very abrupt when you left and ended up going to Perth Glory to finish off your A-League career. Can you talk a little bit about why it was so abrupt and what happened? Yeah,
look, it wasn't my intention to leave. I did think that I was going to be at Adelaide United until the end of my career. But unfortunately, I guess I learned at the time, really learned at the time that football is a business and players are treated as a commodity, and doesn't matter what you've done for the club or what you represent for the club. If you're perceived as not being useful, then you'll be discarded. And essentially, that was the way that it panned out. I thought at the time that it was potentially the coach who was Rinnie Coolin at the time, didn't want me. I've been told multiple different things that it was club owners that didn't want me. So look, it's hard to know. I'm sure the truth lies somewhere in between. But my intention wasn't to leave. But they say things happen for a reason, and Perth was a great time for me. Went over and we played in the grand final that first year against Brisbane Roar. Fortunately, I lost that one as well. But, I've met some great friends from my time in Perth. We were there for 4 years. Ended on a sour note in terms of playing with an ACL injury, which ultimately ended my career. But, I've still got friends that we keep in touch with from our time in Perth, and we still go on holidays with them. So, whilst, you move on from here with football, it's opened up doors that I wouldn't have otherwise have had.
Would you have wished that Adelaide United did send you off in a better fashion, or?
Look, it would have been great.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. It would have been great to have finished my career here, to have played those extra 3 years at the club. But in saying that, as I said, I did have good times and I met great people.
Yep.
Great teammates in Perth. One former teammate of mine who unfortunately has passed away was Liam Miller, who was a roommate of mine, but just a great person, great family man, such a good blast with him on away trips, and formed some really close relationships with teammates over there as well.
What about Scott Jamieson? Do you still keep in touch with him?
Yeah, Scotty. He's one of my closest mates as well.
Yep.
I was there for their grand final win. There to support him. Couldn't get over for their second grand final or their third grand final in a row, but the loss because we were coaching here. But always there for support for him, and always giving him a bit of stick along the way.
You've got to.
I do, 100%. I say to him that all the time that I took him under my wing here at Adelaide United when he couldn't make it, couldn't cut it. I tell him he couldn't cut it in the UK. That's why he had to come back. I went to Perth.
Yep.
He went to Sydney. He couldn't cut it there, so he had to come to Perth with me, where I had to take him under my wing again. And then I think from there he went to Sweden. Couldn't cut it. No, I shouldn't say that, but he couldn't. No, then he came back. But look, he's done very well for himself.
Yeah.
As skipper for Melbourne City now, first championship winning skipper, which he'll always hold over me now that he's got a championship that I don't have. But he'll go down as one of the greats in the A-League when his time comes to a close as well.
And I think he's one of those players that fans from the opposite team love to hate him.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I get it as well because I still do commentary for the A-League, and I look at him and he's just an angry little man. Yeah. But he's just passionate. He's just just a winner, and he just wants to win every time. So I think a lot of the time, this is what he does well. A lot of the time, he just like that niggle just to wind people up, and
that's what you need.
And he does it so well.
Yeah,
he's like a mini version of Kevin Muscat.
I was going to say, yeah, no one could be a full on replica of him.
That's it.
But Matt, talking about that's your career. So much more that happened in that period, but the one thing I want to talk about is the national stage. You managed to represent Australia and the Socceroos as well with your debut in the AFC Asian Cup, and you scored in that as well against Kuwait.
Yes.
So what was that, as on a personal level, what was that like to score in that game, especially in Australia as well?
Yeah, look, coming into that game, it was our first year of being part of the Asian Confederation. So the Asian Cup was the first tournament that we were qualifying for as a nation, and we needed to win that game to qualify for that Asian Cup. As it turned out, it didn't fall in international window, so none of the overseas players were able to come back. So Graham Arnold had to put a squad together based from the A-League. So I was fortunate enough to be part of that squad and to get a start. And I do remember walking out and singing the national anthem in front of 33,000 people at Sydney Football Stadium. It was an unbelievable moment because, prior to that, we'd rarely seen the Socceroos on the big stage. It would only ever be in the real one-off matches, for World Cup qualification or, exhibition games, friendlies and things like that. So to be part of that, knowing that you're representing your country and I had friends and family there supporting as well, it was great. The icing was clearly scoring on debut. That's something that can never be taken away from you, and it's something that I'll cherish as one of my most significant achievements in the game.
And you went on to win that game 2-0, I believe. And but on another level, because that's the personal level, was your first ever goal. But for another level, the Indigenous community, you were the very first Indigenous footballer to score for the Socceroos.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that until after the game. Mike Cockrell interviewed me and told me that, and I was like, well, okay, yeah, wow, it's pretty significant. So yeah, it's something that I'm immensely proud of. But Johnny, you did forget to mention the assist, so I set up the second one as well. So 1 goal and 1 assist.
Sorry, I forgot about that
from my debut game. So no, it was something that I'm hugely proud of. Unfortunately, it didn't really kick on from there. I was able to get one more cap against Bahrain, but ultimately I was in and coming through a generation with the golden generation players, and extremely difficult squad to break into at the time.
And I was around 2006, so that's when everyone just started coming through. So would have been a tough one to play with, but it would have been great to be around those players as well back then.
Yeah, absolutely. My second cap, which was later on down the track, was just after the World Cup, and it was the first time that that squad had been brought back together since the World Cup in Australia. So I was part of that, and Tim Cahill was there, Lucas Neal, Kalat, Swartzer. It was huge. Popovic was there. To be around those types of players, and it's hard not to be in awe of these guys as well, because on one level you're a professional footballer just like they are, but these are guys that are playing in the top leagues in the world at the time, and it was just great to be around that environment.
And go back to being the first ever Indigenous footballer to score for the Socceroos. You were the 4th ever Indigenous player to represent the Socceroos. So for yourself personally, how do you feel about that? Only being 4 up until your point was only 4, and no one had scored yet as an Indigenous footballer.
Yeah, it's sad, I think. And I think since I've played, there's only been a couple of Indigenous players that have represented the Socceroos since I've played. So, look, it's an area of the game in Australia where we can improve massively. We see in the Matildas that there's players coming through there now, which is great to see. So great involvement from the female side of the game, but it's clear that the game in Australia, we don't promote enough within the Indigenous communities, or promote enough within even the metro areas within the Indigenous communities here. So look, there's definitely scope to improve there, and it's something that I'm currently doing some work with to try and improve that, so we can see future stars in our Socceroos and Matildas.
Now, the one thing you're working on, tell me a little bit about that one. I think it's the First Nations Indigenous Football Cup.
Yeah, that's right. So that's coming up. It'll be the first time that South Australia's had a team in that event. So the tournament's been going on for a number of years, but look, it's hard to have to get people involved, and it takes a lot to get it going, as people have been involved in the game know. I think from an Indigenous perspective, it's even harder, because you need to find the players. You need to find enough players to put a squad together, but then you need to get funding. You need to be able to find sponsors to get players over, to get coaches, to get team managers, physios, and everything else. So it's a huge ask, but look, it's something that I'm want to take on to try and promote the game here.
So that whole squad that you've got, and they're representing South Australia. So all the players have to be from South Australia, obviously.
No. So not necessarily.
Yeah.
Look, in this, it's a tournament to get players playing the game.
Yep.
First and foremost, it's a talent ID camp as well, because off the back of these championships, there'll be a selection for the Australian Indigenous Roos men's team and the Australian Indigenous Koalas women's team. So, look, we just want players playing, and as many as possible. I know that there's already a couple of players that are from Northern Territory that are looking to play for South Australia, which is fine. You just want to get squads out there. My daughter is actually going to play for Northern Territory because I don't think we're going to get enough for a women's team this year. But it's just about getting the kids out there and playing and unearthing some potential talent.
And what's the excitement like within the Indigenous community to have a tournament like this and expanding with a South Australian team as well?
Look, it's going to be great. I guess my work within Indigenous football in South Australia started a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, being part of the SASTA program, which is the South Australian Aboriginal Training Association, which it's a school-based program for years 10, 11 and 12, where they come in 1 day a week and deliver an education component, whether it's a Cert 3 or something in hospitality, Aboriginal studies, fitness, and then they break off into specialised sports. So football was introduced, but it was only because we got some initial funding from the state government at the time, through Steve Marshall, which was great to get that off the ground. And that's an opportunity to get more kids playing. We've seen those numbers grow year on year, from 4 or 5 to 10 to 18 in its third year. So it's great to see that program expand as well.
And you also coach the Australian Indigenous Koalas as well, the women's team. What's that like to coach them?
Look, it's it's another honour for me to be able to do that. To have players come in and represent their communities from across Australia is a huge moment for them. And look, that it's a pathway as well for them to continue developing their football strengths, and hopefully go on to the next stage as well, whether it be Matildas for the women, obviously, or Socceroos for the men.
And who do they play against? They play against other countries, or just locally? Do they play against other teams? How does it work?
So the last couple of years, we've just been playing exhibition matches against local NPL teams. But the great thing about that is, and I've had the benefit of coaching them for 2 years now, is that we get a group of players coming in who don't really know each other. We get probably 2 training sessions, and then we play against a local WNPL team who have played together for a number of weeks, months, years, and we go out and produce some really good football. And I guess that just goes to show that the players are technically very good, and they've got good cohesion, good understanding with each other. We've won 1 game, we've played 2 games, we've won 1 and drawn 1. So I'm undefeated also as a national team coach.
There you go. That's another thing to add to your... Hey, having that team, though, the Koalas, for you, someone like your daughter that's playing, does she look up to that team to try and be a part of that, and also the Matildas as a stepping stone to get there?
Absolutely. My daughter hadn't played for a number of years. She's 17. Well, she hasn't really played any football. She played a bit of school football, but on the back of me going to coach the Koalas, she wants to be involved in football as a player now.
There you go.
And she's aspiring to make that team, which is fantastic and something that I love. And it's great that she's got that ambition. But the other benefit is I've got an older son as well, who stopped playing when he was 13. He's 21 now. He played tennis for a long time, but he also wants to is involved in football again and wanting to play again because he wants to play in the Indigenous Roos team. So it's great that, on a personal level, my involvement in the game at this level has encouraged my own kids to want to take up the game again and aspire to be footballers as well.
Well, there you go. If it does that to another handful of other kids,
Absolutely.
That's perfect. It's working already.
Yeah, and that's the whole aim, is to get kids to, I guess, back themselves and give it a crack, because if they don't give it a try, then they'll never know.
It's great that we've got these initiatives at the moment for the Indigenous community, but if you look at someone like the AFL, they've got so much Indigenous opportunities out there for footballers. What do you think the Australian football needs to do to get it to another level, and even to have producing a lot of Indigenous footballers across Australia?
Yeah, look, if you look at what is being done in the country at the moment, I think the most significant contribution at the moment is through John Moriarty Foundation. Through developing players. And what I love about that model is that not only are they playing football, but he's providing scholarships for kids to get an education. So that's such an important piece of being involved in football as well as, and it's an important belief that I have, is that the education is key. But outside of that, there's just not a lot on. Not a lot of organisations contributing. I'm part of the Australian Indigenous Football Council now, which is independent to the federation, because we're of a view that there's just not enough work being done by the federation. So we'll leave it to us, and we'll start to do this stuff. And look, it's a big task when you're competing against the other codes and the money that they invest. And we're an independent council that doesn't have that funding, doesn't have the support from the federation at this stage. We're trying to set up ourselves at a state level as well, so that we can get support from the state federations to help us just chip away. And at this stage, that's what it's got to be. It's small steps, just keep chipping away. Events like the First Nations Indigenous Football Cup, having the Indigenous koalas, the Indigenous roos playing these games, is all small steps to getting more kids playing.
Now, talking about creating awareness for the Indigenous football, the AFL do the weekly rounds, the Indigenous round and all that, where they highlight it for the whole week. Everyone gets their own jerseys and stuff. We don't have that yet in the A-League. Locally, we're starting to see a little bit more of this, which is fantastic. And your club's involved in it, Croydon FC. You're the coach now in the NPL. So this you've just coming up this week. You've got the Indigenous round against Metro Stars. Robbie Saracino is your former coach as well, and
I was assistant coach.
So now you're playing against each other in this round. What's it mean to have this celebration of Indigenous football?
Look, it's a huge achievement, and it's credit to both Croydon and Metro Stars. I know Metro Stars were really keen at the time to get this off the ground, because they actually run the SASTA program for the Indigenous kids. So their involvement over the last 3 years with Indigenous football has been great as well. And as a result of being involved in that, they want to contribute to the game more as well. And we're into our second year of the Indigenous round. Should have been the third year. The first year was called off because of COVID. But it's great. And it's great that both clubs are embracing it. We've had students from the SASTA program design the strips each year for both Croydon and Metro. So it's about having community involvement. It's about raising awareness. And you mentioned that the AFL do it so well. What I really struggle to believe is that that the A-League's been going 17 years or something like that. Can't have an Indigenous round, but if I'm not mistaken, they have a Star Wars round.
They did. Like
that is an embarrassment on the league that you can put time and effort into something like that, but you can't recognise the significance of Indigenous football and acknowledge that.
They even had, they had the, I think it was Darth Vader walking onto the pitches and stuff. So
it's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
So I do get that, but it's good that hopefully it starts from the ground up, and NPL teams get behind it, and then hopefully at one stage the A-League will. It even takes one club to do it.
Absolutely. What I'd love to see is to have a whole of round, Indigenous round within the NPL. That'd be great, and I do have meetings coming up with FSA, and I know that they want to support these types of initiatives.
Yeah.
So again, we can't expect everything to happen all at once. But if you've got people that are willing to, put the time and effort in, which at this stage I'm wanting to do that now. Steve Pepper at Port Pirates is contributing as well. So, if you can get people to be involved and want to promote this game, then we can make it happen.
I've even seen the State League 1 team getting behind it as well. Adelaide Hills Hawks had the Indigenous jersey as well.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, so there's other teams slowly. I might have missed a couple others that are probably doing it as well. But it's good to see everyone's taking the initiative and starting to hopefully get to a point where we get to see everyone do it, and the whole round is dedicated to it.
Absolutely. That would be a massive achievement, and it'd be great to see from Football South Australia to be the first NPL league that does it in the country. It's I think we've got the right people in place to do it. I think there's already good buy-in from other clubs.
Yep.
I know Adelaide City a couple of years ago wanted to do an Indigenous round with Croydon, but for whatever reason didn't go ahead. So there's genuine buy-in from other clubs, and it's more work. It is, but at the end of the day, we need to keep promoting this game as much as possible.
And talking about the awareness, what awareness does it bring to the Indigenous community? Like, what is so important about these rounds?
Look, I think it's important to recognise the Indigenous culture to begin with as an overarching thing, but we want to promote our game as being something that's inclusive for everybody.
Yep.
Now, we know that we have a huge amount of refugees playing the game, and we can see what a significant contribution they have to our game in this state. We want to promote the game within the Indigenous communities as well. And the hard thing is, to be honest, Johnny, is the cost. It's a barrier to entry, within the Indigenous and refugee communities, because it is an expensive sport to play at a federation level. Is that going to get fixed in a day? Definitely not. But it's something that I think if can be addressed, we would see so many more kids playing the game as well.
And hopefully we can see them coming through, because we'd love to have another Travis Dodd in the Socceroos scoring against Kuwait, and maybe an assist as well.
And hopefully that's not the second one, because that might be a little way off. But no, you're right. And ultimately that's what we'd love to see. We'd love to see more Indigenous players representing our country and scoring goals on the world stage.
And before I let you go, I want to talk about your coaching career. Now you've left football in about 5 years ago now, and you're now coaching. So you've coached a little bit at Adelaide United with the women's team. Now you're doing the Indigenous coaching, and now you're at Croydon FC, senior men's football for the NPL. What's that been like to take on a new role and position?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, for sure. I'm into my second year as a coach, and the first year was tough because whilst I was an assistant coach with Robbie Saraceno at Metro Stars for 4 years, I still don't think it prepares you for a head coach role, having to take all the calls from the players, having to have all the responsibility for planning sessions, meetings, videos, and everything like that. It's full on. Add to that, the environment that we're in at the moment with Croydon, in that we don't have a home ground, we don't have a home base. It's very disjointed. We've got our 18s reserves training different venues. It's very difficult. So for the club and the players to have done what they've done in the last couple of years, which is avoid relegations, they've made finals once, is a really, really good achievement.
Yeah.
And when we move into the new ground, I think we're really going to see this club excel.
Yep.
But back to how I found it, I enjoy it when we're winning a lot.
Yep.
I really enjoy it when we're winning. Not so much when we lose.
Yep, I can imagine. But you talk about the new not having a facility just yet, but it's just around the corner. It's been put off a little bit, but for those that don't know, you got a brand new ground being built in Regency, I believe it is.
That's right.
So it's away from Croydon. You've moved about it's a few hundred meters down the road.
Yeah.
But it's a brand new facility. Got a big grandstand, new change rooms, and I think a grass pitch is going to be laid there right next to the Southern Expressway. And it's a great viewing for anyone driving past. But what's it mean to the players and yourself to have a home base like that and be able to train there, play there, and have your own club rooms as well?
Well, it'll be huge. There's going to be 2 artificial pitches, so it's actually an artificial pitch that will be the main pitch.
Yep.
And then the pitch behind is artificial, and then there's also a grass pitch for the mini roos. The stadium holds the grandstand holds 250 people. There's 4 change rooms, so that means that you can have dedicated change rooms for the women's teams as well, which is really important in growing our game as well. So look. It's great for the club, even from a financial point of view, to get gate takings, to get canteen, to get bar money, because it's something that the club hasn't had for 3 years. And again, that's another important point to make, that the club has achieved what it's done without those extra that extra income coming in as well.
Once you move in, it's going to be a fantastic thing. Hopefully the results come with it, and you guys can be more comfortable at your home ground and start seeing better results for it.
No more excuses for the boys when we move in, that's for sure.
And what's it like, actually, one last thing, you played with Mark Brazzali. Now he's in your club, heavily involved. What's that been like being around him?
Oh, he is a pleasure. He's an absolute joy to be around. So as my technical director, especially after we lose. He's very good, very supportive, as are the committee of me, which is all you can ask for. Mark and the committee just want Croydon to succeed, and they'll do whatever they can to make that possible. So from that perspective, it's been great. Mark's also our reserves coach as well, so he gets a bit frustrated when I'm pulling rank on him and just pulling players from his sessions and things like that. But part and parcel of reserves football, I guess. Well,
that sounds like it's all going well down there at Croydon. Hopefully, it gets even better with the new facility just around the corner. But before I let you go, I know you're very, very busy, Travis. So, got to do the last 2 kicking it questions. I ask every guest I have on the show. Who would you like to kick it with on the park? Anyone in the world?
Roy Keane.
Oh, nice.
Roy Keane, yeah. I think he's an absolute character.
Yeah.
Look, the only reason I want to go for a kick with him is because I want to go for a beer with him after.
Yep.
Yeah, he's. I love watching his interviews. He's just, his take on football is just so black and white. I'd love to pick his brain.
Well, he'll probably be the answer for this one as well. So who would you love to kick it with on a Saturday night, watching football and drink, have some beers?
Well, yes, Roy Keane again. He's a legend of a bloke.
You can have 2 people here, so you can have one international, so you can have him, and then someone locally as well.
Okay, locally, I'd probably go. I think I'll go Flores, Marcos.
Oh, yeah.
I had a really good relationship.
Yeah.
Good understanding with him. I still keep in touch with him as well. The main thing is that after a couple of drinks, I wouldn't have to do much talking because he talks a lot. So I could just sit back and listen and watch the football.
He does. I went for a coffee with him once. We spoke for 2 hours about football. So
Did you speak in that time?
A little bit. I asked him how he was, but it was he's great. He's a very passionate guy, and he's something that we need in this game. He loves the game. He loves the next generation as well.
Absolutely. The work that he's doing to Adelaide Atletico as well is fantastic. Such an inclusive club as well, and wish him every success for growth in that club as well.
Yeah, no, there you go. So you got Marcos Flores and Roy Keane on a Saturday
what a
night.
combination.
That'll be good. Maybe chuck in Jamison as well. Then you have a great party. But thank you so much for joining me, Travis. I love what you're doing with the Indigenous football community, and wish you all the best with that. And also, hopefully, see some more wins on the table with Croydon FC.
No worries. Thanks for your time, Johnny.
That was Travis Dodd, the head coach of Croydon FC in the NPL. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow @KickingItLocal SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon! This episode was proudly brought to you by Southside Espresso Bar, Adelaide's bar-style coffee house located in Kidman Park. Make sure you say g'day to Jason today for your coffee fix. 326 Finland Road, Kidman Park.